for Super Bowl 56. KUAM News Headlines is presented by Calvo's Insurance, a legacy of trust, serving Micronesia since 1938. Matson, celebrating 25 years of commitment to Guam, Micronesia, and the CNMI. Cars Plus Hyundai, home of the Kona electric vehicle, an electric heart with an SUV soul. Test drive yours today at Cars Plus. McDonald's of Guam, I'm loving it, and King's Restaurant, serving your local breakfast, lunch, and dinner favorites for over 45 years.
The spin-off of the Omicron variant now confirmed to be on Guam. Daniel Perez has the story, and we'll head to the CNMI and check in live with Tomas Manglutnia, tracking the rise in COVID cases up north. Plus, our Nestor Lecanto reporting on an editorial released by Joint Region Marianas. These stories and more straight ahead.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Hannah Devonzo, and thanks for tuning in to your news leader. With confirmation that the subvariant of Omicron is on Guam, the former head of the Governor's Physicians Advisory Group says expect more infections, more hospitalizations, and sadly more deaths. Daniel Perez reports.
The spawn of the original Omicron variant is now here.
It's much more transmissible than BA.1.
On Saturday, the Joint Information Center reported that all 10 virus samples from January 25th through the 26th that underwent genome sequencing in Hawaii were Omicron, but 8 were actually the variant spinoff, BA.2.
The bad part about BA.2 is that it's so highly infectious that even though it know that you have a high incidence of breakthrough infection on the vaccinated people. So we expect to have more vaccinated people that will be get infected, along with the unvaxxed.
Dr. Wen adds what's not clear at this point is whether BA.2 or the stealth subvariant has the ability to reinfect those who had the original Omicron variant.
We all hope it's not, right? But we have a lot of our people get infected by BA.1 already.
According to Dr. Wen, Omicron's offspring is so much more transmissible that a slight slip-up could lead to a positive test result.
It's just so infectious that if you drop your mask for a few minutes and to do something, for eat or something, it will... You have a high chance of catching the BA.2. You don't need that 15 minutes anymore.
And the sad part is that increasing infections could lead to increasing hospitalizations and COVID casualties because of Guam's high number of residents with underlying health conditions.
Because the number is so high, we're going to have more death than the Delta and everyone put together.
Dr. Ho believes that with confirmation BA.2 is here, it means an even more prolonged fight.
I think the number is going to stay high for... Probably, I keep extending the stuff for another 4 to 6 weeks at least, I don't think we're going to expect the number to go down anytime soon.
What could help stave off more hospitalizations and death, Dr. Hoa says, is the recent arrival of a new shipment of sotrovimab treatments. Our best defense still, to get vaccinated or boosted and stay the course with practicing the 3 W's. Watch your distance, wear your mask, and wash your hands. Daniel Perez reporting for Guam's News Network.
Despite the Omicron stealth subvariant BA.2 confirmed to be on island, COVID-19 Incident Commander Fernando Esteves says guidelines will remain status quo.
We're not going to do anything different for the stealth variant.
Public Health continues to urge residents who aren't vaccinated and boosted to do so, as it can help lessen symptom severity. High-risk individuals such as the elderly and those with comorbid conditions are encouraged to take extra precautions to avoid catching the virus. And as Daniel mentioned, we have more sotrovimab treatments. Over the weekend, 192 doses arrived on island. As we reported, this treatment is administered by IV infusion and has no reported side effects since we began giving them to residents with mild to moderate symptoms. According to Public Health COVID-19 Incident Commander Fernando Esteves, 40 doses were transferred to GRMC, another 40 to GMH, 10 will go to Guam Radiology Consultants, and 10 will be allocated to the SDA clinic. Public Health expects this shipment to last 2 weeks. As for the antiviral pills, DPHSS can treat 55 individuals with the Paxlovid pills and enough molnupiravir to treat 210 patients. As for the update on test kits, we currently have a supply of about 16 1,000, with 30,000 more expected to arrive by the end of the day. Testing at the Tizan site remains appointment-based and only for those who are symptomatic and high-risk and close high-risk contacts. Operation Homebound heads back to Tamuning tomorrow. According to Village Mayor Luis Rivera, Tuesday's outreach will be held at the Senior Citizen Center.
We do have the place available to come to the center tomorrow from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. Yeah, because there's some people in need of their, a vaccination, the first, second, or even a booster.
Operation Homebound will also deploy to Dededo on Tuesday to test and vaccinate vulnerable residents there. According to Guam National Guard Public Affairs Officer Mark Scott, from last week, Thursday and Friday, 25 individuals have been assessed for COVID-19, as well as eligibility for public assistance programs. As for the fight in the CNMI, our Tomas Mangletnia joins us live from outside of the COVID-19 Community Center in Cloverville. Good evening, Tomas.
Good evening, Hannah. Yes, I'm reporting live outside of the COVID-19 Community Center here in Culberville. And tonight, public health officials have their eyes set on two key figures. The first being the death toll. There's been a total of 23 COVID-19 related deaths in the community. And while every death is devastating and unfortunate for our island community, public health officials say that it's one of the lowest in the nation. And about that vaccination rate, it's over 100%, raising some eyebrows. We'll tell you why in this next story. The CNMI has reported 23 COVID-related deaths in the pandemic's course.
That is phenomenal. That puts our case fatality rate at less than 0.35%. That is magnitudes lower than the rest of the U.S.
At a recent COVID-19 protocol forum with government and private sector leaders, she explained the facts behind the figures.
It's because we have had time to develop our protection. We have had time to vaccinate our population. We have had time to get our population boosted. And also we're lucky that now that we're fighting this disease, we actually have therapeutics available.
The CNMI saw its first surge in October and is currently in its second wave of cases fueled by Omicron.
Surpassed expectation set forth by the Road to 80 campaign. We have continued to follow the 3 Ws and now are best positioned to focus on treating those who are severely affected by this virus.
And the NMI's vaccination rate is skyrocketing. It's now at a staggering 100.1%. How's that possible? Hospital spokesperson Gilda Foyfoy tells us that they're basing that figure on the 2020 census, which might indicate a slight undercounting of the population. Public Health also assists in vaccinating military personnel and other individuals who are visiting the islands. Moving forward, they'll be reporting more data on booster shots, which over half of those fully vaccinated received. And Gilda Foyfoy, the hospital spokesperson for the CNMI hospital, tells us that they're roughly seeing 10 to 20 people get vaccinated every day now, just right here at the COVID-19 Community Center in Culberville. And also tomorrow, lawmakers with the Health and Welfare Committee will be holding a panel of COVID-19 update officials from the Department of Corrections, Homeland Security, Public Health, and other government agencies to get a better picture of what the road looks like ahead here in the CNMI with its fight with the COVID-19 virus. Reporting live here on Saipan, Tomas Manglotnia for KUAM News.
Thanks, Tomas. Stay safe over there. The top diplomats from the U.S., Japan, and South Korea held a high-level meeting this weekend in Honolulu. One of the main topics of discussions, North Korea's recent ballistic missile launches and the threat to Indo-Pacific stability. Nestor Lecanto has more.
Secretary of State Antony Blinken met with his counterparts from Japan and South Korea in a trilateral meeting where they called out North Korea's recent ballistic missile launches and discussed what to do next.
I think it is clear to all of us that the DPRK is in a phase of provocation. We condemn the recent missile launches, violations of UN Security Council resolutions. We will continue to hold the DPRK accountable, even as we seek to engage in diplomacy. As you know, we imposed sanctions on 8 DPRK-linked individuals and entities last month, and we are very closely consulting together on further steps.
South Korean Foreign Minister Chung Yoo-yong.
Recently, the DPRK is making its own decisions and has been talking about the possibility of lifting its self-imposed moratorium on missile launches. We are deeply concerned about that, and I strongly urge the DPRK not to put its words into action.
Japan's Foreign Minister Yoshimasa Hayashi also condemned the North Korean missile launches.
We shared serious concerns over North Korea's recent repeated launches of ballistic missiles, including the latest launch of IRBM-class ballistic missile on January 30th. Based on a shared understanding that North Korea's nuclear and missile activities pose a threat to the peace and stability of the region and the international community, we aligned our recognition on future measures.
In 2017, North Korea specifically singled out Guam as a potential target for its missiles. It prompted then-President Donald Trump to warn he'd bring fire and fury if they were to attack. The tensions were finally eased when Trump and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un held a historic meeting at the Korean Peninsula's demilitarized zone. The diplomats say another similar meeting may be necessary. Japanese Foreign Minister Hayashi.
We share the recognition that even in such a situation, diplomatic efforts are important, and we agree to deepen the discussion among Japan, US, and ROK. In this vein, Prime Minister Kishida has repeatedly expressed his determination to meet with Chairman Kim Jong-un face-to-face.
I want to underscore, we have no hostile intent toward the DPRK. We remain open to dialogue without preconditions if Pyongyang chooses that path.
A timetable for any meetings with Kim Jong-un was not discussed. For Guam's News Network, I'm Nestor Lecanto.
The North Korean missile launches were also mentioned in an editorial released by Joint Region Marianas Commander Rear Admiral Benjamin Nicholas. He tied that into what he described as the changing threats to Guam, which may also mean a change to the way the military manages its land here.
In a rare public opinion piece entitled The Changing Military Landscape on Guam, the Admiral wrote about the new emerging threats to the region and tied that into the defense of Guam and the need for military land. He discussed the island's historic military ties from World War II to the present and wrote, quote, "The redistribution of forces throughout the years in response to the threat environment is helpful in understanding the changing military landscape on Guam today." He then wrote about the net negative initiative with Gov Guam, which was meant to ensure that the total amount of military land in Guam would not be greater than what it had in 2011. That's when the decision to build the Marine Corps base was finalized. He says the military is living up to that promise by having transferred more than 600 acres with another 120 in process. But the Admiral adds that as the need for a 360-degree missile defense system for Guam is realized, it requires DoD to, quote, reassess existing military land for which there was previously not a defined future military use, labeled as excess in previous annual DoD land holdings reports. In short, what was once deemed excess may have to be declared otherwise. He also mentions that the pacing threat in our region has changed and, quote, it is the responsibility of DoD to ensure that we are ready and that the way in which the U.S. military manages land on Guam has changed as well. Rear Admiral Nicholson has scheduled a media roundtable discussion Tuesday to, quote, share significant information and relevant updates. The full text of the Admiral's editorial is available on KUAM social media sites. For Guam's News Network, I'm Nestor Lecanto.
We reached out to the governor and the speaker for their reaction. We are waiting on their responses. Before we head into the break, a quick update on tax refunds. DRT confirming 156 tax year 2020 and prior should be mailed out this week. This rounds out to about over $500,000 in payments. And again, these are refunds without any errors. Don't forget, you can always check the status of your refund by going to myguamtax.com. We're just getting started. Another child sex abuse complaint filed against a former middle school counselor. And police net an arrest involving the recent rash of bomb threats. Stay informed. We're back after this.
Get up-to-the-minute news, plus access to alerts, streaming radio, promotions, and more on your mobile device by downloading the KUAM News mobile app, available at the App Store now.
If you are a senior citizen or an individual with a disability who needs assistance in getting the COVID-19 vaccine, call 311 and press 2. A representative will be happy to assist you in scheduling a vaccination appointment, arranging transportation if needed, or arranging homebound vaccination service. Just call 311 and press 2. This public service announcement is made possible through the Guam Tri-Agency on Developmental Disabilities, UOG Center for Excellence in Developmental Disabilities Education, Research and Service, Guam Legal Services Corporation, Disability Law Center, and Guam Developmental Disabilities Council through the Administration for Community Living.
Don't need a work break, keep the smile on your face. The moments you can't replace, and I'll be around. Whoa, you can count on me. You can count on me for life.
Wherever life takes you, we're always here for you. Calvo's Insurance. Count on us for life.
I'm a small business owner and I run a couple of boats. And when COVID first hit, we were kind of, at first we thought it was just like any other pandemic, like the SARS, and we weren't prepared for it until unemployment is shutting down the whole industry. My whole business relies solely on tourism. When that shut down, we're kind of worried because we don't have enough savings for the uncertainty of how long it's gonna last. We're so thankful that the government, the federal government, started giving out the grants, loans, and like PPP and all that. That really saved us, and it's really helping us a lot survive, you know. And right now we're still struggling, but at least it's easier. And without those grants and loans that from the federal government, I mean, we wouldn't be here.
Thank you for the unemployment assistance from the federal funds.
Thank you.
This ad was paid for with official funds from the Office of Congressman Michael F.Q. San Nicolas.
Let us know what's up on our KUAM News WhatsApp tip line at 671-727-0094. Share information about what's happening in your town, on Guam or the CNMI, and what you want us to know. Reach us on WhatsApp at 671-727-0094.
Port Police is investigating what's been classified as an injured persons report, but involved the death of a 39-year-old man. The incident occurred late Friday afternoon at Outhouse Beach. The man was in about 10 feet of water when he signaled to his friends that he was having problems with his diving equipment. Although he indicated he would be returning to shore, his friends found him almost an hour later floating in the water. The man was pronounced dead on arrival at Naval Hospital. Autopsy results are pending. As planned, JMI Edison filed a lawsuit against the OPA for its dismissal of their appeal involving the airport and its contract with Menzies for baggage handling services. The lawsuit claims that Menzies lacked a specialized contractor's license, which according to Guam law was the airport's RFP was required. The suit further alleges Public Auditor BJ Cruz failed to address their primary concern and instead dismissed their appeal based on action by now former CLB Executive Director Cecil Buddy Orsini when he signed off on findings and decisions. JMI is asking the court to find the OPA's dismissal of their appeal as arbitrary, capricious, clearly erroneous, and contrary to law. A second child sex abuse complaint has been filed involving a former middle school counselor for the Guam Department of Education. Identified as RC to protect the victim's identity, he alleges that in 1981, when he was in 7th grade at Agata Johnston Middle School, Zermeno sexually assaulted him while on school grounds. At after-hours baseball games and at Paseo Stadium at Zermeno's private residence. The alleged abuse was over a 2-year period. Aside from Zermeno, the government of Guam was named as a plaintiff for failing to take any action despite it being reported. The victim is seeking up to $2 million in damages as well as attorney fees. This is the second complaint filed against Zermeno. A similar lawsuit was filed in May of last year. In this case, a motion to dismiss was filed by Zermeno's attorney. Zermeno now lives in California, according to court documents. A 58-year-old man was arrested for allegedly trying to rape an 11-year-old girl. The alleged crime was reported early Saturday morning in Tamuning. Jacob, near a gang, allegedly began touching and rubbing the victim's genital area. He stopped when another individual walked into the room. When police responded, he was found inside a bathroom fully dressed with drugs on the floor. He denied trying to penetrate the victim, but allegedly admitted to police that he touched her. He also told police that he had flushed his pipe in the toilet and that the meth belonged to him. Near Gang was charged with first and second degree criminal sexual conduct, as well as possession of drugs and destruction of evidence. A 35-year-old man has been arrested for a recent string of bomb threats. On Saturday, police detectives picked up Robert Anthony Pangilinan Blas of Manilao. He allegedly called in the recent bomb threats to the ITC building, DNA building, and GPO. Police discovered that all three calls were made from the same phone. According to court documents, he apologized to the whole island and said he did it because he was upset for having to quarantine. He was arrested for terroristic conduct and terrorizing. He was booked and confined. And he was seen in a gray shirt, black pants, and a black hat while holding her at gunpoint. An unidentified man grabbed a woman's purse at the Guahan court in Toto on Sunday and ran towards an apartment complex. The Guam Police Department is asking the community to call 671-475-8615-7 if you witness what occurred or have any information on the incident. Police are also searching for the suspect who robbed Z-Mart into Munning on Saturday. The suspect got away with $300 cash and phone cards. He was seen leaving in a silver Nissan crossover and wearing a black sweatshirt, black shorts, and a baseball cap, and stood about 5'9". Again, call GPD if you have any information. And he was the target of 2 separate warrants, and in both instances, law enforcement found the drug ice in his possession. The first warrant was executed by Deputy Marshal in August of last year. 27-year-old Segundo Sablon was located inside a Barragata home. They not only did they find drugs, but also a loaded black Colt revolver. He admitted he sold ice occasionally for money. The second warrant was executed in late December, and again, Sablon was found with drugs. He was charged with possession and also having an unregistered firearm and no valid firearm ID. A man on probation faces charges for another alleged crime. According to court documents, 44-year-old Christian Anthony Chiguina Medina is accused of threatening a woman at her Sinahanya home in the early morning hours of December 12. He allegedly pulled out 5 bullets from his pocket and threatened to kill her. When police found him on February 10th inside his car, they found a BB gun and 13 9mm Luger pistol bullets. Medina is currently on probation for another case involving the same victim. Several years ago, he was charged in separate riots that broke out at the Dedido Dome and Linda's Cafe. In both cases, his sentences were suspended. The Guam Election Commission is still waiting to get the supplemental findings it needs to pull off Decision 2022. GEC Executive Director wrote her Oversight Chair, Senator Joe San Agustin, about 3 weeks ago.
Part of the supplemental budget request is to fund early voting. The early voting law was passed after fiscal year 22 budget, which covers the primary. And so that's what we're looking for money for.
Pangilinan confirms that GEC has been in discussion with the senator. They need a little over $600,000 to hold this year's elections. The Election Commission Board meets this Thursday, where funding is expected to be discussed. Did you feel it the first time, or how about the second, third, fourth, or fifth time? You heard that right. There were 5 recorded earthquakes today, all happening south of Mauricio. 2 were recorded before 7 o'clock this morning, and both registered 5.7 on the Richter scale. The 3 other temblors that followed later were 4.8, 4.7, and 4.6 respectively. There were no reported injuries or damage. Super Bowl 56 is in the books. Dave Delgado with more in sports. And later we head to Tumon to feature the Tsubaki Towers, offering a safe place for you and your family to enjoy. Keep it here. We'll be back in a moment.
Beautiful.
It is, right, baby?